Welcome back. These days, we're generally stuck inside, trying to stay warm while also social distancing. But our next guest wants us to embrace the cold by eating outside.
Here with ideas on how to make friends with winter and dine outdoors is Métis chef and culinary consultant Jenni Lessard. Jenni, we're so happy to see you again.
I'm so happy to see you. Thank you for having me. It's minus 29 here. I'm near Regina in the Qu'Appelle Valley on Treaty 4 territory and the homeland of the Métis. And I have two intrepid guests in the backyard waiting to be fed.
Oh, this is amazing.
Wow.
Minus 29. Wow, that makes us sound like babies here today. Listen, cooking and dining outdoors during the warmer seasons is wonderful, but not a lot of us even think about dining outside in the winter. It doesn't even occur to us. But you've been doing it for a long time. Can you tell us about how it ties in with your Indigenous heritage?
Well, I grew up in northern Saskatchewan, and some of my earliest memories of being tucked in, blankets on blankets, my sister and I in the back of a sled, being pulled across a frozen lake with our parents on the snowmobile and going to visit friends at the trap line. So, and then outdoor, winter festivals where people were having tea boiling contests and to see who could start a fire the fastest. So winter didn't keep us inside. And I also grew up hearing stories of my relatives, like my great-great-grandpa, John Bird, apparently had a mail run using a dog team from Prince Albert, Saskatchewan to Winnipeg. So I've always been fascinated by how Métis people kept warm and kept active and thrived in these conditions.
I mean, the way you're describing it, it does sound fun, but I think what Jess said is true. We don't often think about it sounding fun to dine outdoors when it's freezing cold outside. So let's talk about how you have made it enjoyable so that you're not only focusing on like, oh my gosh, I'm so cold. My butt is cold and wet.
Exactly. Cold butts are no fun. I had a restaurant in a small town, and one year we had a huge snowfall. It was really cold, and I wanted to kind of drum up business in January. So I spent about 3 weeks preparing an outdoor ice cafe, and I made snow tables and chairs, sold tickets to a 4-course entirely outside event. Of course, we had a warm-up space inside. And the centerpiece of that, of course, was a big fire. I think we actually had 3 separate fire areas. So lighting a fire and having a nice fire, if you're able to do that, is one way to, of course, make it a lot more comfortable to dine outside. Just try lighting a fire in that wind.
Yeah, good luck. That looks so cozy and so beautiful. But let's get to some food because today you're sharing some recipes with us. And first up, you have a cast iron baked apples that you cook right over a fire like the one we just saw. So tell us about the dish and how you make it.
Well, these can be made inside if you like, but they actually work really well outside. So you core the apple. This is a great thing for kids to do. And then you stuff it with kind of an oatmeal-y, buttery, streusely filling. And I put it right on the grill on my fire bowl, covered it, left it for about 45 to 50 minutes. And then you'll know that they're done when a sharp paring knife just pierces the apple really easily. And then they're done.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
my
nice
gosh.
and warm.
I love this because I think it's just so great also because you can obviously hold that in your little hands. It probably warms you up a little bit more as well. And this is a good way to get kids eating apples as well if they aren't into them. What are those, some of your tips regarding ambience? Like for viewers who would like to try cooking and dining outdoors, how do you set the mood to entice them in?
Well, the ambiance also distracts people from the fact that they're cold if they are a little bit cold. So I rescued my neighbor's Christmas tree from the landfill this year. So I took those spruce boughs, laid them around the fire. So it prevents slipping too, but it helps keep your feet a little bit warmer. And I use the branches kind of to decorate in little spaces. Candles are another great way. I use table runners to cover my chairs. If you're using a candle, you're probably going to have a lantern because even the lightest little breath of wind will put it out. I don't use anything plasticky or glitter or anything like that. Everything I use to decorate is either found or biodegradable because you don't want that blowing around the natural environment.
Of course. These are great tips. But
So
let's
there's a
go
lot
back
to
to
think
cold
about,
butts.
right? Cold butts,
Yeah.
okay.
Cold butts. I want to talk about seating. What do you do? How do we get around this?
Well, I found that with my clientele, we had, a 92-year-old gentleman that came. We had people with kids. So you had to have a variety of different seating. This was pre-COVID, of course. So we had about 40 people at the event. I made tables and chairs out of snow, but I also had traditional chairs. But one way that I found that's easy is just sit yourself down and your bum will make a chair. Sit back up again. Sometimes it's a little bit harder. I didn't have help for this one. And then put a warmed patio cushion. So bring the cushions out last. You don't want to leave them outside overnight at 30 below. And if you happen to be so lucky and honored to have a buffalo robe or hide, that's a wonderful insulator against cold. I don't have one, but
incredible.
Oh, that's great. Wonderful. That is so great. I love the idea of just sitting down in the snowbank. Your next dish is a bison calzone. I mean, tell me, this sounds like a modern twist on a traditional meal. Is that the case?
It is. I'll just show you the finished product here. So it's basically like a pizza pop. And they're still really hot. So I'll wrap these in foil and it'll be a little hand warmer. But how I did it is I used my Aunt Ruth's bannock recipe, just added a little less water so it wasn't quite as sticky. And then I rolled it out, cut it with a jar lid. So you can make any size. You can make monster calzone or baby ones. And then you just want to press that out with your fingertips, flip it over. Take about 2 tablespoons of pulled bison. So I just slow roasted the bison with sage and molasses and a little bit of vinegar. Pinch it together kind of like a pierogi. This bannock dough has half whole wheat flour in it, so it's a really nutty flavor. And then you want to push it down with the tines of a fork and bake it. I haven't tried baking this outside, but I am going to try doing it the same way I did the apples, but in the oven, 375, super quick. You can get it to this point, you guys, and then freeze it. And then pull it out whenever you want to use it. Yeah, so that's how we do that.
A great idea. Hey, listen, what if we're living in an area where we can't find bison? So would you recommend any other filling?
Yeah, bison is just my go-to protein because my body really loves it and I love the way it's nourished my ancestors over the years. But you can use, if you're lucky enough to have wild meat like moose or rabbit is really good. I've done rabbit. If you're vegetarian or vegan, jackfruit makes a wonderful faux pulled pork. So you can just find those recipes online for a jackfruit. You can even open a can of chili, put that inside. It might be a little runnier, but you can be careful sealing. Now, one thing you don't want to do is use metal utensils. Ask me how I know. I did have a fork hanging from my mouth at one of the dinners. So I use compostable wooden utensils for anything like the apple that's going to need to be scooped or forked up. And then I use fallen banana leaf plates, which I put in my garden and they'll compost by spring. I guess you could burn them, but I like to have them in the compost.
What a great idea. This is all so fantastic. I'm sad that we're getting to the final dish now, but it sounds delicious. It's a spiced squash soup. And you used the fire to cook this one as well. So how did you prepare it?
I did. Well, I cut my squash in half. It's a Lakota squash, and squash is one of the 3 sisters of the indigenous companion planting system. So corn, beans, and squash. I just lightly seasoned it with oil, salt, and pepper and put it right on the fire. Mine got a little bit too charred, so I had to scrape off a little bit of the char and then sauteed cinnamon, garlic, onion, and lots of really warming spices like turmeric and ginger, cinnamon, cumin. And it's this gorgeous color. And we give instructions too in the recipes for baking all that inside if you want.
That looks gorgeous. I mean, how do you serve this soup outdoors?
Well, what you don't want to do is put a hot liquid into a cold vessel because it'll crack. And I love serving these in pottery mugs. This is from a local Regina artist. So I keep these nice and warm. I took a box from just a meal delivery kit and kind of decorated it a little bit. So it's already kind of insulated. Put a hot water bottle in the bottom. Some of the wool sweaters that I've shrunk over the years. And then we're gonna nestle our mugs right in that little warm box and pour our soup.
People can sip on them.
It's a sipper soup.
with
Yeah, what a
thermos?
So
great idea.
you don't need utensils for this. Oh, look how elegantly I'm doing this. Isn't the color gorgeous?
Oh
That's
my
the
gosh,
turmeric
will
and the
you fill up
squash.
that thermos?
I will.
And we dream about having soup with you. We got to thank you so much for this. This has been fantastic,
Okay,
Jenni.
I'm excited
Thank
to
you.
hear how people do this and if they want to try their own dine outside experience.
Well, if they want to, we're going to have all of that information, including the recipes, on our social media pages after the show. Stay tuned. We'll be right
Wonderful.
back.